David, could you read this one?
ES6 objects. JavaScript variables can be object data types that contain many values called properties. An object can also have properties that are function definitions called methods for performing actions on objects. ES6 introduces shorthand notifications and computed property names that make declaring and using objects easier to understand. The new method definition shorthand does not require the colon or function keyword, as in growing functions of the tree declaration. You can also use property value shorthand when initializing properties with a variable by the same name. For example, property height and health are being initialized with variables named height and health. When creating an object by using duplicate property names, the last property will overwrite the priority ones of the same name. For example, duplicate property names generate a syntax error in ES5 when using strict mode. However, ES6 removed this limitation.
Okay, so look at this, and when we run it, we get 4 because 4 is the last one. So it got rid of any of the other duplicates. Any questions on all this? So it's a lot like our dictionaries or not arrays, objects, but you can add, so same thing, key value pairs, but then you can add in functions as a list of the object, and then and write it easier. Any questions on that? Does that make sense, or are y'all not clear on it? Okay. Take a second and answer the next question. Okay. Fill in the blanks to make this code run and print 60. This dot speed plus 10. And it's called twice. So it goes from 40 to 60. Samantha, can you read this one?
Computed property names. With ES6, you can now use computed property names using the square bracket notation. You can use an expression for a property name, including concatenating strings. This can be useful in cases where we want to create certain objects based on the user data, ID, email, and so on. Here are 3 examples. It is very useful when you need to create custom objects based on some variables.
Okay, take a second and answer the next question. Okay, for this one, adding a bracket, comma, and a colon for this one. All right. Bill, can you read this one?
Okay, object assigned in ES6. ES6 adds a new object method assign parentheses that allows us to combine multiple sources into one target to create a single new object. Object.assign parentheses is also useful for creating a duplicate of an existing object. Let's look at the following example to see how to combine objects. Here we used objects.assign parentheses where the first parameter is the target object. You want to apply new properties to it. Every parameter after the first will be used as sources for the target. There are no limitations on the number of source parameters. However, order is important because properties in the second parameter will be overridden by properties of the same name in third parameter and so on. In the example above, we used a new object, squiggly, as the target and used two subjects as sources. Try changing the order of second and third parameters to see what happens to the result. Now let's see how we can use assign parentheses to create a duplicate object without creating a reference or mutating to the base object. In the following example, assignment was used to try to generate a new object. However, equals creates a reference to the base object. Because of this reference, changes intended for a new object mutate the original object. To avoid this mutations, use object.assign parentheses to create a new object, for example. Finally, you can assign a value to an object property in the object.assign parentheses statement. Run the code to see how it works.
Okay. Any questions on this one? Because I know it can
Sounds confusing.
Yeah. Any questions on this? Okay, well, let's do the try it yourself so you can see how it works. Basically, you're just combining objects. But the first one, so we did new student by doing object assign and combining persons and student. But since the student was the second one and the name is a duplicate, it got rid of Jack. And so for this new object, the student name is Bob. And age, same thing. Second one is student, so it's going to take that parameter. And now sex is a separate, is not a duplicate, so it just takes this one and the XP from this one, which is not a duplicate of this one. So long story short, if you're doing object assign, just know the second one is the one that's going to, if you have any duplicates, it's going to take precedence and overwrite it. Any questions? And again, this is a good example of something you would use for, say, well, I mean, in this one, like you're using it for people, right? An object of people. And like when you're creating you know, different objects to store different people's data or whatever. You'll have multiple objects of person, but then you'd pass in the different parameters and whatnot. Same thing, like I mentioned before with games. You use this a lot for games that have different characters and stuff that have similar attributes but different variables and stuff. All right, well, go ahead, and if there's no questions, then go ahead and work on this and do raise hand once you're done. Let's actually read this before. Jacob, can you read this?
Try it yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. ES6 objects. You are making a workout app. After completing this basic exercise in the app, the user is able to access advanced content. The given program declares two cases, basic and advanced. Sorry, classes, basic and advanced, with corresponding properties. Complete the code to combine basic and advanced level exercises into one new object named total, so that the given code for final output works correctly. Use object.assign brackets to perform the requested operation.
Thanks. All right, looks like a lot of you are done, so we'll go over this one. So for this one, we've got two different objects, and we're going to use the object.assign method in order to combine basic and advanced. And then we've got a for loop to go over everything in the object and output the results. So is anybody having trouble with this one, or need any help? Excuse me. If so, just unmute and let me know. Otherwise, we'll move on. Anybody need me to leave this up a little longer? If so, unmute and let me know. Okay. Moving on then. And answer to this one is 46 because we've got this constant object and we are assigning 5 and 6. Okay, hold on. Object C is 4. Object 2, D is 6. Okay, so it's C is still 4 because it's a constant. It can't be, it's immutable. It can't be changed. And this, but we added this new part to the constant, which is 6. So then logging it combines them together and makes 46. Okay. Patricia, can you read this one?
Yes. Array destructuring in ES6. The destructuring assignment syntax is a JavaScript expression that makes it possible to unpack values from arrays or properties from objects into distinct variables. ES6 has added a shorthand syntax for destructuring an array. The following example demonstrates how to unpack the elements of an array into distinct variables. We can use also destructure an array returned by a function. For example, notice that we left the second argument's place empty. The destructuring syntax also simplifies assignment and swapping values. Run the code and see how it works.
Okay, so go ahead and take a second and answer the next question.
Okay. So, okay. Maybe error. I don't know. Like, hold on. Let me read it again.
Okay, so the answer to this one's Anne. So we've got,
How did it get Anne?
Yeah.
right, so we've got names, John, Fred, and Anne, and then
Because of John's name, it goes with the previous one.
yeah, and then we're combining them, and we've here, let's go back to the last one and do some examples on this, and then maybe you'll understand a little better. So if we run this, right, we've got, and so we're combining them, right? Basically, we're saying it equals 1, 2, and 3 equals R. So now it's like 1 equals this 1, right? 2 equals this 2. 3 equals this 3. So if we then call on 1, 2, or 3, we get this, right? So then looking at this question, oops, with combining them, so we're basically saying John, or let Anne equal John, let Fred equal Fred, and let John equal Anne. So then when we output John, we get Anne. Does that make sense now? Any
Yes.
questions on
Yes,
that?
yes.
Okay. Roger, can you read this one?
Object destructuring in ES6. Similar to array destructuring, object destructuring unpacks properties into distinct variables. For example, we assign without declaration, but there are some syntax requirements for that. The parentheses with a semicolon at the end are mandatory when destructuring without a declaration. However, you can do it however, you can also do it as follows, where the parentheses are not required. You can also assign the object to new variable names. For example, finally, you can assign default values to variables in case the value unpacked from the object is undefined. Run the code and see how it works.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with this one. So if we run this, and just like the other one, we're saying let H equal whatever the first one in this object is, which is 100, and let S equal true. Okay, and let's go to the next one. Run that, and we're saying let A and B equal hello and Jack. And for this one, same thing, but we're doing less to get the same result, right? Because on this one, we had all this extra, these extra semicolon, or not semicolon, parentheses right here, and then semicolon. And then on this one, it's the same thing, but it doesn't have the semicolon, and it's all just quick on one line. All right, and then with this one, so we're taking, this object of, we're creating it of O, and H equals 42, S equals true, right? But then we're saying H equals foo and S equals bar. But then we're saying it equals this object. So when you combine it, so foo, it then becomes 42. I know this can seem confusing. To be perfectly honest, you probably won't have to use this a lot, but it's good to know and understand. And if you do end up having to use it, you can always reference back and yeah, like, don't feel like you need to, you can reference back to like more understand it, but don't feel like you need to like be trying this a lot and like using it a lot in your tool belt. Long story short, you might see other people use it, but for yourself, you probably won't. So take a second and answer the next question. Okay, for this one, we get an error. Because if we look at it, we're saying one, or we're saying log one, right? But one is the it's got different, like this is a number and this is no, that's not it. I'm getting an error. It's because it's
Equal object, isn't it?
what was that?
It's the same thing. It's not going to read it as just one or first. It'll read it as an error message because the number one and the written word are first, and it gets confused and it just says error.
Yeah. Well, there you go. All right. So
Can Brian, can you say that one more time? I didn't hear it all the way.
Okay, so like all these have been examples of pretty much the pathway of what the computer is thinking. So the computer thinks one thing every time. So that's what it's trying to teach you. But since one and first have the name one on both of them, right? That contradicts that one and that contradicts the first. So the computer reading the code the way it does is going to think, oh, well, I don't know which one it is. So there's going to be an error message and you're going to have to go and fix it. So you're going to have to tell which one it wants. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little bit. Thank you.
all right. Well, good stuff. Good explanation. All right. Peter, can you read this one? Fabian, can you read this one? Oh, wait, Peter, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you read this one?
Oh, okay, there it is. Okay, I guess I was muted on the computer somehow. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What am I reading? Oh, there it is. ES6 REST parameters. Prior to ES6, if you wanted to pass a variable number of arguments to a function, we could use arguments object, an array-like object, to access the parameters passed to the function. For example, let's write a function that checks if an array contains all the arguments passed. We can pass any number of arguments to the function and access it using the arguments object. While this does the job, ES6 provides a more readable syntax to achieve variable number of parameters by using a REST parameter. The nonce parameter is called a REST parameter. It takes all the extra arguments passed to the function. The three dots are called a spread operator. Only the last parameter of the function may be marked as a REST parameter. If there are no extra arguments, the REST parameter will simply be an empty array. The REST parameter will never be undefined. And summary calculator.
All right. So with this, basically, you don't know how many arguments you're going to be adding, or how many arguments the user will be adding, or whatever the case may be. And so if so you can do it this way by adding, the 3 dots, and then it's going to run through, like this one, for example, is checking, okay, if all these are in their return true. If they're not, return false. So like for this first one, okay, is 2, 4, and 7 in there? Yes. And this next one is 6, 4, and 9 in there? Well, no, there's no 9. So it returns false. But yeah, so all right, go ahead and take a second and answer this one, and let me know when you're done, or do raise hand when you're done. All right, looks like a lot of y'all are done. So with this one, you're making a program to calculate the sum of any number of values, complete the given function so that it takes as parameter as many numbers as needed and returns the sum. So just we do our 3 dots nums, and then with this function they can add, you know, however many different numbers they want to it, and then we cycle through nums and do plus equals, you know, do our new for loop, the easier way of doing a for loop, you know, for I and nums, and then we take the total plus equals whatever I is, and I is of course the whatever the current variable is, and it outputs the value. So any questions on this one? Does anybody need me to leave this up longer? Anybody stuck? If so, unmute and let me know. Nope. Okay.
So
Oh, what?
so the ES6 is the new way of doing it. It's the new way of doing it. Is that what
Yeah.
you said?
Yeah, it's just like a shorthand. Well, okay, it's not just a shorthand. It does make some things shorter, but then it also adds in a few new things that you weren't able to do with JavaScript previously, and some of those like map stuff. We'll get to that a little later, and actually even map stuff you could do, but you would just have to do it differently. Anyway, we'll get to that. But mostly it's an easier way of writing code is the stuff in ES6.
Okay.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, it'll still work if you use the old stuff. So it's whatever you're most comfortable using. If you want to use the new format, like for writing for loops and stuff, great. If not, you can use the old one. But something to keep in mind, this way of doing for loops is the same way as Python. So you might want to get used to doing that. All right. So what's the output of the following code? It's 12 because, let's see, this is basically, so this goes through and sums the numbers, or so it takes whatever the number is, nums.filter, and it takes and it makes it, remember that's divides it by 2, but does like the remainder. Oh, wait, we haven't learned about map yet. Okay. And we're basically saying if it equals 0, so it's even, then do sum plus equals EL, which is this new thing we did. Okay, so let's go through this. Hold on. So first it goes 1, and that's not even. So then 2, okay, not even. 4, 6, not even. And then this 6 is even. So it adds basically 2, 4, and 6 together, and you get 12. All right. So
Hey, Brandon, what is the, on that example you had up, what is the, oh shoot, I don't remember what that sign was. Oh, the percentage sign. What does that do in this equation?
So the percentage sign, remember like way back when I don't think we've used it since we learned it way back in the beginning.
Said all the operator
There's the
lists.
different, yes, there's the different operators. There's like plus, minus, multiply, and then there's this one, which is when you divide it by you take the number and divide it by whatever this number is. So in this example 2, and you just take the remainder, right? So whatever's remaining. And so we're saying if it equals, if we divide it by 2 and it equals 0, so it has
The
no
remainder
value,
portion.
yeah, then it's even. So like if we did okay, let's say we did this divided by 3, right? It would divide by 2,
You have a remainder of 1.
and it'd have a remainder of 1 as opposed to a remainder of 0. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Mark, can you read this one?
The spread operator. This operator is similar to the rest parameter, but it has another purpose when used in objects or arrays or function cells arguments. It is common to pass the elements of an array as arguments to a function. Before ES6, we use the following methods. ES6 provides an easy way to do the example above with spread operators. Spread in arrays. All right, before ES6, we use the following syntax to add an item at middle of an array. You can use this method such as push, splice, and concat. For example, to achieve this in different positions of an array of the array. However, ES6, the spread operator, lets us do this more easily. Spread an object literal. In objects, it copies its own enumeral properties from the provided object onto a new object. However, if you try to merge them, you will not get the results you expected. Shallow cloning or merging objects is possible with another operator called object.assign.
Okay, so let's go over this one. All right, so this is, it's kind of, all right, so this is how we would do it prior to ES6, right? So we would take this and we'd have a function that takes, W, X, Y, Z, which is going to be this, we're passing in these args and concatenating it, or we're concatenating, we're adding 4, right? And then it's just going and adding it up, 1, 2, 3, 6, and then 4 is 10, right? So that's the old way of doing it. But if you remember us learning the concat feature, right? But then now with this way, instead of having to do concat, right? We're still logging, we're creating this function, right? Where and remember, this is the new way of doing the function instead of writing function, right? And instead of just doing concat, we're taking whatever these args are and then just adding 4. So it's a little simpler. Remember the 3 dots and then, whatever our args are. So we're passing in the 3 dots and we're passing in this right here. So however many is in this is basically what it's saying. Does that make sense? Or any questions on that? No. Okay. All right. Take a second and answer the next question. Okay, so for this one, we've got this variable 3, but we're adding in these right here, right? And so we're doing 0, 1, 2, and then 3 is 4, and then we're outputting it to the console. So now to classes. Will, can you read this one?
Classes, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. In this session, we will explain how to create classes that can be used to create multiple objects of the same structure. A class is used to, in the keyword class, contains the constructor method in initializing. For example, a declared class can then be used to create multiple objects using keywords new. For example, class declarations are not hosted while functions declare are. If you are trying to access your class before declaring it, a reference error will be returned. So you can also define a class with class expressions where the class can be named or unnamed. A named class looks like below. An unnamed class express the variables. It simply assign the class definition. The constructor is a special method which is used to create, initialize, and object created within the class. There can be only one constructor in each class.
Okay, so basically, long story short with these, it's similar. Classes are really similar to objects, right? Where except it's got a different way of doing it. So like when you're first creating the class, if you want to pass in functions to create this class, this is how you would do it. You'd have the constructor. So by doing, you don't, and you also don't have to do this constructor. You can do other things as well with the class, but if you want to have it create the class, then or with initial parameters, then when you do new or whatever, you're passing in this information into the class. Classes are used a lot more for games than objects, really, and you'll see that a lot more with other programming languages as well, is the use of classes. Any questions on how this works, or is anybody unclear?
How did they get the 5?
Okay, so we're creating a new a constant of square, right? And we're passing in rectangle 5, and the first one is height, so it passes in this height equals 5, and then we're passing in this width is 5. So also if we did width on this one, we still get 5.
Okay, that's it.
Because it's the same. But if like say we did poster, it's a way of doing the dot syntax for getting your results, right? So we're doing poster dot width, and we're going to get 3 because that's what we passed in for the width of, like, each of these are different instances of the class, right? So we've got square and we've got poster. They're both the rectangle class, but we named them something different and passed in different variables, so they're different things. Does that make sense?
So it was asking for poster and width, right? So if you look at, if it goes through and
Well,
poster consistent in the rectangle, and it wants the width, so it spits out a 3 because of that's where the width is. I see. I got you.
Yeah. It's all about where you order. Like if we switch these up, right? Then it's going to be all screwy. It's going to flip it because it's all about the order of how you pass it in, right? And so like the first one we're passing now is width, and the second one we're passing is height by switching this order up here. So so that's still clear and everything? Okay, I'm gonna assume it's still clear. All right. So take a second and answer the next question. Okay. So fill in the blanks to declare a class point with a constructor initializing its X and Y members. So create the class by adding the name class and then constructor. So this dot X equals A, whatever's passed in for A, and this dot Y is B, whatever's passed in for B. So if you do this dot X, it's going to output whatever was passed in for A. All right. Sandra, can you read this one?
Class methods in ES6. ES6 introduced a shorthand that does not require the keyword function for a function assigned to a method's name. One type of class method is the prototype method, which is available to object of the class. For example, in the code above, area is a getter, calc area is a method. Another type of method is a static method, which cannot be called through a class instance. Static methods are often used to create utility functions for an application. For example, as you can see, the static distance method is called directly using the class name without an object. Average exam score, add a static method's average to class exam so that the code and main work correctly.
So with the static one, when you run it, so we've created P1 and P2, right? And they're both constructed here, but this static method has nothing to do with 1 and 2, like on its own. Like when they're first created, it doesn't do anything. It's not until we combine them, we're calling the class directly as opposed to calling these instances, and then combine them and pass the stuff in, that we're using that static method. Then that's kind of the difference with static methods, is that they're there on their own until they're called. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so go ahead and wait, continue. Go ahead and work on this one. And just do raise hand once you're done. Oh, wait, let's have somebody read this. Mike, can you read this one?
Yeah, I can. You want me to read you the problem or the
Yeah, just the problem.
You're making a program so that students are able to calculate their average of 3 exam scores. The given program takes the scores of 3 exams as input and declares the exams class. Add a static method average to class exams, which will take the scores as parameters and calculate and return the average score rounded to the nearest integer, so the code in main works correctly. There's the sample inputs and output, and remember math.round function to round the number to with the floating point to the nearest integer.
Okay. All right, looks like a lot of you are done. So for this one, we've got our inputs that they provide to us, right? And then we want to use the static method, which can be used, the static method, which can be used by calling, exams dot whatever, as opposed to calling the individual. Well, in this one, we haven't even created any instances, right? And so we're calling that and passing in these 3 variables, and then adding them together and using the math.round and taking the total, dividing it by 3, and then doing math.round to get our average. So any questions on this one, or anybody struggling with this one? Need me to leave it up longer? Nope. Okay. And then for this one, fill in the blanks to output Rex barks. So we just add this because it's for our constructor. And then we want to output the name plus barks. So this dot name plus barks. And then down here to call it, we just do d dot barks because it calls this function right here, which outputs this result here. Kevin, can you read this one?
Inheritance in ES6. The extends keyword is used in class declarations or class expressions to create a child of a class. The child inherits the properties and methods of the parent. In the code above, the dog class is a child of the animal class, inheriting its properties and methods. If there is a constructor present in the subclass, it needs to first call super function before using this. Also, the super keyword is used to call parents' methods. For example, we can modify the program above to the following. In the code above, the parents' speak method is called using the super keyword.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do this one, or look at this one. So we've got animal, which is our initial class that we could do all animals under, but dog falls under the class animal. So we're doing dog.extends animal so that we can basically combine these two classes. So it has the properties of a dog and the properties of an animal, right? And since animal has this function speak that we can call by doing, this dot or this dot speak or whatever, for animal, since it's combined with dog, we call it, or since dog is combined with animal, in order to call it, we do this dot or super dot speak to call our parents function, and it still outputs when we create the new dog and we pass in Rex, since it has the properties of creating it with a name, we're still passing in a name, and we're still passing and we can still use this. And so if we do then dog.speak, it calls this speak, which calls the parents speak and calls the name Rex. So any questions on that? Okay. Basically, long story short, you can combine things, and if you're going to call on the parents, just use the parents function, just use super. Okay. Oh, darn. Well, with this one, it's class and then extends to combine human with student, or to, well, sorry, backwards, to combine student with human. And in order to call on the parents function, we use super. So, or the parents name, we use, function, we use super. So.
Oh, did I miss? Was that a class dog one?
What was that?
I think the class dog one. Maybe you guys are it. Take a 5 minutes. Yeah.
What, Peter? I'm not understanding.
I was trying to figure out where you guys are.
Oh, we're
before,
on
that
ES6.
the one that says classes. I think I missed the answer to that one.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me go
There
back.
must be a classes one.
Was it this one or actually?
Yeah. This. Yep, that one.
Okay.
Name and bar. Okay. And then this one was the other one.
Class, extends, and super.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Yanni, can you read this one?
ES6 map. A map object can be used to hold key value pairs. A key or value in a map can be anything, objects and primitive values. The syntax new map iterable creates a map object where iterable is an array or any other iterable object whose elements are arrays with a key value pair each. An object is similar to map, but there are important differences that make using a map preferable in certain cases. Number one, the keys can be any type, including functions, objects, and any primitive. Number two, you can get the size of a map. Number three, you can directly iterate over map. Number four, performance of the map is better in scenarios involving frequent addition and removal of key value pairs. The size property returns the number of key value pairs in a map. For example, methods, set key value, parentheses, adds a specific key value pair to the map. If the specific key already exists, value corresponding to it is replaced with a specific value. Get parentheses key gets the value corresponding to a specific key in the map. If the specific key doesn't exist, undefined is returned. Has parentheses key returns true if a specific key exists in the map and false otherwise. Delete parentheses key deletes the key value pair with a specific key from the map and returns true. Returns false if the element does not exist. Clear parentheses removes all key value pairs from map. Keys parentheses returns an iterator of keys in the map for each element. Values returns an iterator of values in the map for each element. Entries returns an iterator of array key value in the map for each element. For example, the above example demonstrates some of the ES6 map methods. Map supports different data types, i.e. one and one in quotations are two different keys values. Employee map, complete the program to output the list of employees in format shown in the sample output.
So long story short, map is just like other objects, except it's better because you can use these methods in order to do different things in order to change your initial map. Okay, so go ahead and take a second or take some time and do this, and then raise your hand once you're done. Oh, actually, hold on. Let's have somebody read this first. Fabian, can you read this one?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Here's 6 map. 5 employees at the company are stored in a map in the program you are given. The names are set as keys and the position as values. The company is hiring 1 more employee. The program should take the name of the position, the name and the position as input and store them in the existing map. Complete the program to perform that operation and output to the console the list of employees in the format shown in the sample output. The sample is Bob, developer, and the sample output is Richard, developer, Maria, SEO specialist, Tom, product manager, David, accountant, Sophia, HR manager, Bob, developer. The entries method becomes an iterator of array key value in the map for each element. Don't forget to put spaces before and after the column in the output.
All right, so go ahead and work on that and raise your hand when you're done. All right, a lot of you are done. So with this one, we've got the employee, the map of the initial employees with the key value pairs of the name and then what and their position. So then we want to add the new person that they pass in this name and position. So using the set feature that we just learned about, we pass in name and position to add to this. And then if we just iterate over all of the entries using our for loop, then and use the dot entries that we just learned about, then by for I, we're passing in 0, which is the first one of it, and I and 1, 0 and 1 of I, and just logging it to the console. Anybody having trouble with this one?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Can you leave it up for a little bit?
Yeah, I'll leave
Please.
it up for a second. Is there anything unclear about it that you don't understand, that you need explained how it works? Or is it just that you were just having issues or something? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm just having issues.
Oh, okay. You want to do screen share? Or it's still not working for you?
1 second.
Okay.
I think I might. No. All right. I'll do screen share. I'm not sure what I'm missing.
Okay, probably like a space or misspelling or something.
Yeah, I'm having the same issue too.
Yeah, you need the space on your colon, like the space before and the space after. So on line 15. Oh no, on in the quotation marks.
Oh, okay.
Because you're outputting all the right. Oh wait. No, you're not the right stuff. Because you're trying to do employees. You just got to change employees on line 15 to I. Because remember, because what's outputting is whatever we put for I. That var I, we could name it something else. You name it whatever you want, but that is what is going to actually do the output. The of dot employees dot entries. Okay. That's the list that it's going to iterate through. But the I is what the output's going to be in that block of code. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right.
Mine is not working.
Somebody else was having trouble too. Do you want to do screen share? Whoever that was, like.
That was me.
Oh, that was you.
Where am I? Yep. Where am I? Yep.
Yeah, same issue. You just need the spaces in your. Oh, it's something else too. Hold on. Wait. Oh, and you need an I after. Well, so first start with the spaces on line 17. So in your quotes where the colon is, you just add a space before and after the colon.
Like that?
Well, no, it's got to be.
I gotta be close.
Yeah, in the quotes of the one for before. Yeah, there you go. And then click your right arrow twice to go over, like right past the plus sign. Yeah, right there, and just add I. Okay, now hit run.
What am I here? Is it supposed to be
Oh yeah,
employee?
yeah. Change employee to I. Okay, and now hit run.
Bingo.
There you go. Anybody
you.
else having trouble with that one and still need help? No. Okay. Then continuing along, and I just noticed the time. It's been way over an hour, so this will be our last. Well, let me look at how much we have left, and then I'll decide. So for this one, the answer is 1 because we've got we're creating a new map, and then instead of adding stuff into the map initially, we're just doing map.set. Well, that we're this constant that we're creating map, and we're doing map.set 1 is 1, 2 is 2, and if map has 2, which is the quotes one, console log 2, and else console log map.get1, which is going to be this number 1. And since it doesn't have, so has it, what was has again? Hold on, let me go back to has. Has is return true if the key exists, but it's not the key. It was that the 2 was the value. So oh dang it. Wait, the heck am I? Anyway, 2 was the value, so as opposed to the key. All right, so okay, what do you guys vote? Do you guys want to finish this last little, like the last little 3 sections, and then be done, and then move on to jQuery tomorrow, or work on your resume project? So raise hand if you want to work on your resume project.
So I think okay, I'm making sure you can hear me. I think based on what you answered last time when I asked you, so that we're doing about what was that 2 hours Tuesday to Friday. We kind of moving fast in terms of really understanding the material, and making it practical. So I guess my question to you, I believe you answered that before, but I just want you to make that clear again. We're gonna have an opportunity to review everything that we are going through when we are done with. Thank you. I believe you said the last one would probably be Python.
Actually, once we finish C#, then we'll be done with all the learning, and then the rest of the time, because then we don't have to come back to SoloLearn if we just learn it now.
Right.
I thought a little bit more about that. So then we can be done with SoloLearn, and then it's all going to be practical exercise after that. So I'm thinking like a month or two, and we should be done with all the learning, and like the rest of this time for the year will be spent on like putting it to work, like improving your resume website, adding, working on other projects, maybe even coming up as a group, some sort of project you guys want to all work on to start from scratch. And but long story short, it's all going to be working on projects and taking what you've learned and taking your tool belt of the things that you know how to do, and then figuring out how to create projects using that. And so like you'll be doing a lot of referencing back, because like
Right.
I don't expect you to fully remember everything that we've learned. I mean, you should remember that it exists, but
It's just like it's something that is there. We can reference and make it happen, like you said before, like the CSS part that we going through all that. Okay, and you would be like like there's a backup when people are having trouble. Figuring some stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that was very helpful. That's what I was worried about. We kind of moving fast, and we never really had a chance to really work on practicality. Thank you.
Okay. But it looks like the majority of you wants to stop here, so we'll stop here for the day and work on your resume projects, and we'll finish the last little bit tomorrow, and then if we should have time to get started on jQuery tomorrow too. So all right, so I'm going to stop